Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today we're taking a first look at the new and improved re-released tactical FPS, World War III. The last time I took an in-depth look at this game was about a year ago. The devs had just started teasing some significant updates for the game, and it looked like World War III was about to take off. And that would have actually been great timing for a big update to launch. Battlefield 5 had been a big letdown for modern military FPS fans, and World War III was openly inspired by Battlefield 4. Everyone, myself included, wanted World War III to succeed because it would have been a nice alternative to playing older Battlefield games when trying to get some modern military FPS experience. However, sadly, World War III never got those major updates, and the devs went radio silent for a year after announcing a major partnership with publisher My.Games. And now that Battlefield 2042 is right around the corner, World War III devs are in a challenging position. They've just launched a Veteran Alpha for players that bought the game on Steam, and it's a massive rework to the original game. It overhauls just about every aspect of the game, from the gunplay and movement to the maps and menu design. In many ways, World War III feels like an entirely new game, but in a lot of other ways, it also feels very similar to the previous experience. And before we get into all the rest of that, I've got a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Bespoke Post. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a business that sorted through all the junk people buy online and actually found products of substance and elegance that were also tailored to your specific interests? Well, that's exactly what this company does. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club that delivers boxes of top-shelf goods right to your door. Every month they introduce new products like outdoor gear, barware, home and kitchen goods, clothing, and more. Each box contains about $70 worth in retail value, but costs only $45. Plus, you get to preview your box before it's shipped and decide if you want to keep it, swap it for a different box, or just skip the month entirely for no charge. You only pay for what you want. And so far, I've received the Terra box and the Trail box. I picked these two boxes to complement my Pacific Northwest lifestyle, and I couldn't be happier. The Terra box is perfect for my backyard. It comes with a detox scrub bar, an Audubon bird call, which my 4-year-old uses to call the birds in the morning, and the ultimate tool. Modeled after the Japanese Hori, this award-winning field knife is the perfect companion for any yard work or gardening activity. Now, the Trail box is the ultimate survival starter kit. Everything here is essential to surviving on your own in the elements. It comes with a field box that can protect anything in any type of weather, a Surviving the Great Outdoors book with lots of awesome tips, an awesome looking gut hook knife for hunting or general purposes, and a pocket saw and paracord bracelet. And I gotta say, I absolutely love the Bespoke Post boxes, and I can't wait to get my next one. So, what are you guys waiting for? Class up your lifestyle with Bespoke Post. To get 20% off your first box, click the link in the description and enter LevelCap20 at checkout, or go to bspk.me/levelcap20. And once again, thanks a lot to Bespoke Post for sponsoring this video. Alright, now back to World War III. Right off the bat, I have to give the developers big props for this update because it was clearly a huge amount of work and is a substantial improvement from the previous version. Many of my criticisms from the last time I covered this game have been addressed, and although movement is still a bit clunky, all of the animations are updated, so it feels more intuitive and dynamic. Simple stuff like being able to see my gun while sprinting makes such a big difference to the impression of motion you get while running. There's also less negative acceleration and a new double spring option that makes my soldier feel more nimble. Movement still has a certain weight to it that's a little more noticeable than other games, but it's not excessive like it used to be. The updated gunplay seems better, but I haven't unlocked a lot of attachments to experiment with, so I can't really speak to weapon balance. But I will say the new backpack attachment swapping system is a really cool change. Like Battlefield 2042, World War III lets you swap attachments in-game on the fly. Just hit the backpack key and you can swap out any attachment you have unlocked for the gun. And I gotta say, it is interesting to see more games applying this mechanic to multiplayer shooters. I'll be curious to see if it becomes a short-lived trend or if it ends up becoming the new standard practice for tactical shooters. And it's interesting playing World War III where everyone can adapt their weapons on the fly, especially since this game can have some pretty long sight lines. It certainly helps reduce challenging combat situations, but it might also remove that need to push in closer to make your weapon weapons more effective. Again, it's pretty early to try and tell how this is going to affect the overall meta. Now, my main criticism of the gameplay, and this is carried over from the original design, is that the game's armor system can make it feel extremely inconsistent. Most enemies tend to drop in 4 to 5 body shots, but that can also vary if they've taken damage from somebody else, since damage affects both your armor and health. The result is that everyone is running around with slightly different total HP, and that makes the TTK a little different between every firefight. And while this mechanic can be fun in games like, say, Escape from Tarkov, in more fast-paced shooters, being able to immediately understand how long TTKs take is an important element of the skill curve. It's also difficult to tell exactly when you kill an enemy because of how delayed the kill notifications are. The damage you do per shot is added up as you land the shots, and it doesn't finish counting until after the enemy is dead. They definitely need to add an enemy killed notification or visual aid that supersedes the damage counter so that you know exactly when the enemy has died. Now, when it comes to the map overhauls, the devs have certainly touted it as a fairly big deal. And from playing it, there's certainly a lot more detail and the new lighting is excellent. However, none of the changes strike me as quite as dramatic improvements that I was expecting. If you like the original maps, then you'll like the refreshed versions even more. Just don't expect to be blown away visually. Ultimately, I'd say the map overhauls make the game feel more finished than anything else. However, one aspect of the update that did impress me a lot was the improved UI. It's a night and day difference compared to the old menus and in-game heads-up display. Customizing weapons before this update, which was a huge selling point of the game, was an actual nightmare. You had so much info being shown on screen at once, and all the attachments had to be purchased, but the purchasing system was so slow and buggy, you weren't even sure what you were doing. It was honestly a total mess. These new menus, however, are fantastic. Everything is clearly labeled and neatly organized. The in-game heads-up display has been refined to be more information-oriented and less spread out. And while the HUD isn't quite as big of an improvement compared to the menus, it's still a great change. Now, despite all of these improvements, the Veteran Alpha still leaves some big things to be desired. The obvious one is performance. Running the game on max settings on a 3080 Ti video card yields an okay 60 FPS experience, but dropping the settings lower has a massive impact on visual quality without really improving the performance much. Good luck trying to max out your FPS for your monitor's refresh rate. Optimization was already the game's biggest roadblock, and although it's better with the Alpha, it's still far from ideal. And the bigger issue with the performance isn't just FPS, it's the latency. It feels like there's some significant rendering delay in the Alpha build, and that makes precision aiming challenging. Hopefully the devs can improve the FPS as they get closer to launching the final version of the update. Still, it is a night and day improvement compared to the last time I played the game, so they're clearly making progress towards a better experience. It's just not quite there yet. And it's kind of sad that so many indie shooters suffer from poor optimization when compared to big budget shooters that can crank out both FPS and graphics. It means that you really have to be in love with that indie shooter concept to put up with the crappy performance. Now, the sound design also needs some work. You'll hear the same voice actor repeating the same lines constantly throughout a match.
I'm out! Need ammo! Grenade! Get down! Stay sharp! They're coming! Fucking hell! I need a medic!
It's the sort of thing that might not annoy you at first, but once you notice it, it could drive you crazy. There's also a metallic bullet impact sound that you'll hear a lot when enemy gunfire lands around you. It's not annoying or anything, but it happens when you're not even standing next to metal objects. That can certainly be a bit immersion breaking, and it can make it hard to identify what direction the gunfire is coming from. And further on that point, you also don't hear incoming gunfire until it's too late most of the time. The devs could really add some more suppressive audio effects to cue you into incoming fire. Now, where the sound really tends to fall apart is vehicles and enemy footsteps. Tanks and other armored vehicles are basically ninjas. I've died to surprise tanks multiple times in pretty much every match I've played. Likewise, enemies don't make a ton of noise until they're pretty much right next to you. The devs could do a lot to make World War III's general sound design better. The most basic feedback I would have is to make enemy footstep audio wider and add some bullet whiz effects to help the players pinpoint enemy gunfire. As for controlling vehicles, they feel fine, but I did have one instance while driving a remote tank where my camera just went crazy because of the angle of the ground that it was on. It took several seconds to figure out my orientation and get the camera pointed back at the ground. Now, looking at social media and Reddit, it seems like most players are pretty happy with the update, and most of my concerns are also reflected in their feedback. One big sticking point for players is that the alpha uses My.Game's launcher system, and while that's to be expected, considering that they technically published the game, the problem is that it's an extremely slow and buggy launcher in its current state. At one point I was downloading the game at 3 megabytes a second, which is kinda crazy slow for gigabyte internet. The launcher also uses peer-to-peer file sharing to help distribute server load, and you can disable this if you want, but just keep in mind that if you have it enabled, you might upload data in the background with it on. Now, overall, there's no denying that the Veteran Alpha update is a massive improvement over the previous version of the game. Timeline-wise, though, it would have been great to see this update months and months and months ago, heck, a year ago, closer to when the game actually launched. It would have given the devs a lot more breathing room to build an audience before, well, 2042 launches. The hype for 2042 is off the charts right now, and the open beta launches for pre-order customers 2 days after the World War III alpha ends, and World War III developers haven't even announced when the final version of the game is launching. It sounds like it could be months away since they'll be doing more alphas and betas in the future. That gives Battlefield 2042 plenty of time to redominate the modern military marketplace. And considering how much the two games overlap, it makes you wonder if this town is big enough for both games. 2042 is a much bigger game with more content and player interest. World War III tries to take a little bit more of a realistic approach to gameplay, but the differences are not so big that they'll sway players away from Battlefield, in my opinion anyway. Now, of course, it's always good to have competition, and especially since World War III is going free to play, it offers a different element there compared to a fully priced retail title. If 2042 is somehow a massive disaster, World War III, of course, will be there as a safety net to catch players bailing from Battlefield. Of course, I do hope that World War III is able to build up an indie shooter fan base and continue to develop the game concept. I think its best road forward for the team is to figure out how to more differentiate itself from the Battlefield franchise. Going even a bit further down the Milsim route might make the game more appealing to that crowd, where Battlefield would cater more towards the casual crowd. I'm very curious to see where the game goes in the coming months, but I gotta say, I wouldn't want to be the devs right now. They're in a pretty tricky situation given the current marketplace. All that said, I'm curious to know what you guys think. Have you tried the Veteran Alpha? Does World War III stand a chance in Battlefield 2042 Shadow? Put your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching guys. I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.